Welcome to the Online Course Creator Show. This is episode 58 and I'm your host, Lou Blakely. I'm so glad you're here tuning in today. Now, this is a podcast for female online business owners who want more freedom, more time, and more money, and they are getting that by creating online courses and digital products. So I sent an email out to my email list a while back asking if anyone had any questions relating to online courses or what their biggest problem was that I could address on this podcast. And I got a problem back from Jodine McIntyre from Social Smarty, which said this. My biggest struggle is that I have too many courses and offerings and I don't know what to launch when. I end up not launching anything because I figure if it's confusing for me, it must be so confusing for my audience. So I actually love hearing this because this is something that I talk to a lot of people about. And it really got me thinking about the core issue here, and that is that you've got too many courses. 100%, like that is the problem here because it's confusing. When we're in this stage where we have multiple courses, we don't know what to launch and when. And I mean, Jodine is quite right to feel like that could potentially be really confusing for her audience as well. So that's what today's episode is all about. Should you create one online course or multiple online courses? Now, it's really common to think up all of the great knowledge that you've got in that brain of yours and turn it into a whole bunch of online courses or one big kitchen sink course. In fact, I see this a lot. And if you just sat down and thought, what are all the things that I know? And all of a sudden you're going to have like 10 different ideas. I think that's the case for all of us, right? But what happens is that if you went and created all these courses, which is going to take you a lot of time just to create all the videos and the lessons and all of that stuff, like that stuff takes a lot of time, let's be real. And you put them on your website. You have a situation where your website becomes like an e-commerce store full of different courses and digital products. And even if they're not on your website, and if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you know that I don't even recommend to put them on your website in the first place. But I do find that the people that have multiple courses do put them on their website. But it just does not work for so many reasons. And here's a few. Okay, so online courses and digital products need to be maintained and updated by you as the owner and creator of them. And depending on what you teach, this might need to happen a lot. Like I know one area, for example, as an example of a course topic that needs to be updated a lot is if you had a course on Facebook ads. Like Facebook ads, like the interface and the technology on there is changing all of the time. So if you created a course on Facebook ads, you're probably going to have to go and update it once a year, maybe even more than that. I don't know. It depends like when the changes actually happen. So I think you'd be updating that at least every second or third year at the very, very minimum. So it really depends here on what you teach. But there's no doubt about it, you still have to maintain and make sure that the courses, people are able to log into it, that kind of thing. Doing this and keeping on top of this for multiple courses, especially if it's just you and the business, is hard. Plus, you've got all that tech that you need to keep on top of in terms of the checkout pages, sales pages, emails. Like, does it all work? Who's checking that stuff, right? It just adds all this complexity to your business. Now, another reason that I do not believe in this approach at all of having multiple courses is that the success of your online courses comes from your ability to sell them, not so much from what is inside them. So to sell them effectively and have them really make a difference to your business revenue, you will need a strategy to sell each and every one of those courses as a separate entity. That will require multiple different promotional plans, launching plans, again, creating huge complexity. And like Jodine says in this statement from her, that it's a big thing to know when you're launching which one. But not only that, but being able to communicate that and share that with your followers. Now, another reason why I don't believe in this approach is that because you become a jack of all trades and a master of none in the eyes of your customers and audience. So this will mean that they will go elsewhere and buy from someone else for the specialized information and may not even purchase from you at all because they see that you kind of do a little bit of everything and you've got that broad overview. And even if you are actually really good at the individual parts, they're not going to see that because they're going to look at the person who specializes in particular areas and probably buy courses from them instead of you. Now then we've got what I like to call the kitchen sink offers. Now, I didn't make up that term. I know a lot of people that use that, and I think it's just a really good phrase to use to describe. I think we all know what that means. Like, you just chuck everything in the kitchen sink that you have, right? So it can be a little bit of everything. And I think these are really common to create as well. I know that the tendency when I'm working with my clients and I can see their brain ticking over at all the stuff that they know and they start to think, I can add this, I can add this, and I can add this. And I'm just like, stop. Like, we need to back it up here and get actually really clear on the problem that we're solving. But more on that in a bit. So kitchen sink offers are huge online courses that include everything you know on a topic. So maybe it's a specific topic, or it could also be quite a broad topic, which means that the course is probably even bigger. So, for example, you could sell a kitchen sink offer on marketing. Now, that would be huge. If you think about all of the different things that you could cover in marketing, from like social media, SEO, Facebook ads, paid traffic, TikTok, email marketing, like the list goes on and on and on. That would be absolutely massive. So that would be a kitchen sink offer on a broad topic. But maybe it's a bit more specific than that, but you've still included everything you know on a particular topic. Now, that is also not a good thing. You may be wondering why. So too much information creates overwhelm for your students. If you think that, you create like a 10 module course, which is 10 weeks long, but you've got the kitchen sink type mentality in there where they've got everything, are they even going to be able to get through that? They might be so far behind, and that just creates overwhelm, and that's when people actually dip out. Like, they just stop because they are so overwhelmed by the amount of information. Now, another reason why it's not effective is that there's likely no real pathway for them to go through the course. So instead, you're just sharing of what is inside your brain. I like to call this like you're turning your course into an encyclopedia of your knowledge because you've got so much of it. And then the person on the other end can just never get through it. And they actually don't need to know half the stuff that you know to get the result, right? Like, you're meant to be giving them the shortcut here. So all of this means that it's going to be very hard for your students to get results because they can't even get through all of that info to get to the stuff that they need, which is going to really make the difference. So when we're creating a course, one of the biggest, most powerful things that we can do is actually not include the things that they don't need to know, even if we know it. And maybe it helped us, but is it really necessary for the student to know that? Or is it just going to hold them up from getting the real result that they're after, which they bought the course for in the first place? If you think that it's going to be hard for students to get results, they're overwhelmed, they can't get through all the info, that means that they're not going to get results. And then that lack of student results is going to mean less testimonials, less results that they're telling you about that you can share to sell it in the future. So it's going to make your course harder to sell in the long run. Now, if you offer too much within one program, then it's hard to get clarity on what it's actually about, which means it's harder for you to communicate in your marketing and for your audience to understand what it actually will help them with. So this is a messaging issue as well. If we're confused by our own offers because there's simply too much in them, there's no pathway, there's too much information, then if we don't get that, understand that, or are able to get clarity on that, then how are we going to communicate that with the people in our audience? Like, there's just going to be a massive disconnect there. And lastly, the kitchen sink offer. If you have everything in one course, like everything in your business in one course, then you're putting a lot of pressure on that one offer to perform for you. And if it's not what your audience wants, it just isn't going to have the impact on your business that you want. This is why I'm a huge advocate for pre-selling, to actually make sure that people want your offer, rather than going and spending months creating that kitchen sink offer and then finding out that no one actually wants it, because as I just mentioned, it's really hard to communicate the value of such a product. So when it comes back to like the topic of this podcast, which is should you create one online course or multiple, so far we've covered, the kitchen sink offer, which is the big online course, or multiple courses, which is like where you might have heaps of small little ones and they're all like $97 or $197, right? And you create like 5 different courses on different topics. So those are the 2 approaches that I really don't recommend at all. So what do I recommend instead? So while yes, you can have many offers in your business, there's a strategic way to go about this instead of just creating multiple courses or one absolutely huge course and then you hope and pray that that works. So I'm going to give you a very actionable step-by-step plan here, okay? I want you to choose one niche, and hopefully in your business, you already know what that niche is, right? I would start with a signature online course that solves one problem. I want you to price this from $500 to $1,000, somewhere in that range, but I'm actually going to encourage you to go towards the higher end of that. Then launch that course, that signature program, 2 to 3 times. Get revenue coming in for that. Know that people want it. Like, go through all of that process. And I share so much on this podcast about that process. So, hopefully you're a regular listener and you have been delving into some of those episodes. Get their revenue coming in. Create that course if you're pre-selling, which hopefully you are, and then get results in the first few rounds. See where people need help. Are you giving them too much information? Do they need less? Do they need more? Where are the gaps? That kind of thing. What do they need from you to get the results that they bought the course for, to solve that one problem? Okay. So make those tweaks as you need to and then continue launching that course. Now, as you see people going through this and achieving the transformation, solving that one problem in this course, look to see what problems these people now have that have been through your online course. Like, what is their next problem? They are at a different place than when they started. So what's the next thing that you could help that person with, rather than thinking you're going to create a new course for a different segment of your audience? It could be an offer that provides more support. So it could be a group coaching program that is much more hands-on and they have more access to you. And that's where a group coaching program is a great next offer. But it also depends on your business and what their actual problems is, because it could also be a membership. Like, a membership could be that great next offer for them. It just depends on what is going to best solve that next problem for your customer. So this offer, regardless of what format it takes, it becomes your back end offer. So you don't really need to do big launches for this type of offer, because it's the next obvious step for the people who have been through your signature program already. So you've got these people coming through and it's just the next step for them. It is an absolute no-brainer and they already trust you, right? So you're not having to go out to the market and try and sell a completely different course. So this will make your life so much easier, but it will also dramatically increase the lifetime value of your customers. Now, I also recommend that if you are someone that likes to coach people and work with people privately as well, then beyond that, you can actually have your higher ticket one-on-one private coaching, or whatever that looks like for you. And that price can now be a lot higher because you have those lower cost online courses for those who can't afford to work with you privately. So now you have a product suite that caters to each part of the customer journey. So your product suite consists of your free content right at the bottom. So that might be like your podcast, blog, or social media, if you're, regularly educating people on social media. Then you've got your signature program as the no-brainer, lower end option because it's affordable and solves a problem. Then you've got a back end offer, which is the next obvious step. And if you want to, you can also add in that higher end, higher contact and higher ticket coaching, and maybe that even includes working privately one-on-one with people. Now, all of a sudden, you actually have multiple offers, but really you only have to actively sell one which is amazing. You just have to launch that same offer over and over again and get as many people into that as possible. Now, there's no doubt that this approach will take some time to set up, but if you strategically just start with that lower end offer and get that moving, then imagine what your business will look like in a year or two from now. So I encourage you to really simplify your business and don't create a whole bunch of courses just because you can. I know it's tempting, but please don't do it. Instead, create a really strategic product suite that is really quite simple, and you will see your revenue skyrocket and your business completely change for the better. Sure, you can add in more offers over time, but until you master that lower end offer, then I recommend that you stick to simplicity. So thanks so much for listening today. A big shout out to Jodine McIntyre from Social Smarty for submitting that problem to be talked about on the podcast. And I hope you really enjoyed tuning in today. And if you have a particular question about online courses or digital products, jump over to Instagram and DM me and let me know what it is, and maybe I'll address it on the podcast as well. Thanks for listening today. Have a great rest of the week, and I hope to see you here next week. Thanks, course creators and go-getters. You're incredible, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about what I offer, head across to loublakely.com. See you next time.